Hello, Paradigm Shifters. Woo! Welcome to Earth Week, Earth Month, Earth Life, Earth Planet. I'm so grateful for Paradigm Shifters. We are a growing global community dedicated to shift and uplift the planet. How's that, Katie?
Love it. Uplift.
Yeah, we're uplifting, baby. Okay, and so the month of April, we have dedicated to a new identity. And this is Earth Week. And so, of course, Katie Augustine is coming on. But before we bring on Katie, I want to start out with a blessing, Earth blessing, an affirmation for everybody. My thoughtful choices bless the earth. Let's all say that together. Yeah. My thoughtful choices bless the earth. Yeah. All right. So we got Katie Augustine here. Yeah, I know you all been waiting. This is, yeah. So Katie is a professional consultant and keynote speaker in personal development and transformation. And as such, she has supported and spoken to thousands of people around the globe. In 2018, Katie transitioned from a successful 22-year legal career in banking and compliance and risk management to a senior coach position with Brave Thinking Institute. Yeah, supporting clients in proven successes, out processes to live their dreams and empower new coaches as they launch their business. So my buddy Katie is a life mastery consultant certified through the Brave Thinking Institute since 2012. And we're going to go into this today, an ordained minister of walking prayer through the Center for Sacred Studies since 2009. Katie is also a Maitri Breathwork Facilitator, a published author, and social commentary poet, and an earth and animal advocate. So all views that she shares today are totally hers. So I'm going to turn this over to Katie, who's just, it's all yours, Katie. It's
well, thank you. Thank you, Judy. Thank you for that introduction. And hi, Paradigm Shifters. It's so good to be with you again. And just love what you're all doing as you continue to hold and shift and uplift, as Judy was saying. I'm just so honored, and I'm so honored to be with Judy. Judy and I have this long time friendship, both through, as Judy was saying, through the Brave Thinking Institute, our growing up as coaches together. Judy starting, yeah, probably about 5 years before me, but just over those years, and really connecting around the earth and the animals. And so we've always had that strong connection. So thank you, Judy. So Judy had asked me, I'm going to start with a quick story. I'll end with the ending of the story. And then Judy asked me, we're going to bring in a bit of a ceremony today to honor the planet and her creatures, and also this discussion. So let me start with this story, though, so that you know a little bit about where I'm coming from. And then also I want to invite you during this story to think about yourself and some of your own situations with the planet. My guess is if you're here, you're working on your own consciousness and awareness, and you're also probably, love the planet, love, in honor of Earth Day, love the creatures and the ecosystems, and also may feel a bit of what I see in, the people that I am around a lot in these ways, see a lot of, sometimes it's overwhelm around what we can do to support the planet. Sometimes it's despair or fear, even the youth. I'm noticing in, my nieces and nephews and their friends, a lot of really kind of almost anger towards some of the older generations, and then that fear or anxiety around it. So wherever you fall on the spectrum, you may feel really good about it, but that's where we really want to take this today, is to Judy's point, and the invitation she gave me was to bring in a bit of a visioning moment, just a few minutes where we will hold a vision for the planet, for ourselves. So my story starts with waking up. It was the morning in around 2014, 2015. I woke up to the sound of chainsaws outside my window. And it had been a day I was dreading, absolutely dreading. Yeah. And at the level of fact, there were these three, I lived in Nutley, New Jersey at the time, beautiful city, three wonderful tree lawn trees that were very big old oaks in the tree lawns. One had happened to, I knew some of this background, it happened to get into the pipes of the neighbor, and they complained, and the sidewalks were a little bumpy. And so they asked the park system to look at all three of them, and they decided that all three needed to be removed. So I've been praying around these particular trees, and the one in particular outside our particular condo unit was the home of a beautiful squirrel too. And he, was squawking. I get out there so they came a little early. If you've never lived in New Jersey, they come and leaf blow and do everything at like 7 a.m. Everyone's up and at them. And I tend to sleep a little later. But that said, I jump out of bed literally in my pajamas, run out with my sage. I have some sage back here. It's a herbal plant that you can use for prayers, a rattle, one of my rattles that I use for prayers. And I just asked if they would pause for a moment, which they did. This park ranger, by the way, was the sweetest man, the guy in charge. And I told them what I do and that I've been praying with the trees, and I just wanted to give them one last hug. I wasn't going to chain myself to the tree, but I did want to hug him. And they told me at the level of fact it was dying, and there was reasons. And if they found any nests, they would care for the birds. So I really was able to make a good relation. And so in the Indigenous studies, I've studied with these Indigenous elders over the years. A big part of that is good relation, making good relation, and not judging what others are doing, knowing that we're all, and we learn this, I'm sure, Judy, as a paradigm shifter, you share this, but not bringing blame or judgment or anger, but if we can bring relationship and teachings then and support people in awareness. Well, this ranger was very sweet, and he had certain gloves that if there was a nest or anything like that, he would take care of the animals. So they let me, again, in my PJs, I'm walking around the street praying and singing and rattling, and the smudge is going. And then I bid my goodbye and had to, through the morning, listen to the tree being taken down. And I know I still get a little teary, and the other two as well. So now this isn't the first or the last time that I've been around, and many of you probably have been around trees being taken out, whether or not you were connected to that. And there's not a judgment around it. It's just to lean in. And one of the things I wanted to bring is this understanding of the Indigenous ways, and that they understood that all beings were living beings. And actually, the more they've studied trees, they realize there's usually a mother tree, and that the trees are connected, their root systems, they're friends. They're all friends with each other. So if you do know of a tree that dies or has to be taken out, be sure to pray with its loved ones around it too, because they're friends and they're connected. They're learning now that plants, and actually all trees, plants, make sounds. It's at different frequencies. We talk about energy and frequency. We just don't always hear it. So I just invite you to think about times where you've been around nature or with nature, or seen nature disrupted in ways that maybe you didn't love, or in ways that maybe back in my early days, I wasn't really even aware. I didn't really think much of it. And how do we start on a planet that we are realizing is consciousness, and the natural ecosystems are serving us, that we are nature, we are all one, and humanity is not above or different than nature, we are nature. So how do we start to respect and love it and treat it in ways that are respectful, and help others do that in really good relations, So that was where I wanted to start with the story, and bringing in a few teachings from the Indigenous elders I studied with, as well as I'll share a few more, as Judy knows, I told her I would bring that. Let's move into a brief ceremony. Judy invited me to bring this, and I hope it's appreciated. I want to show you behind me. I set an altar earlier, and just tell you a bit about what's behind me. And then what we'll do is pray to the 4 directions. Now, if you don't like the word pray, you can use the word meditate, or just send positive vibes. It's a quantum field. We can think of it as love, source, God, earth, sky. And so you'll see more in this prayer, but we'll start out the rest of the session, or I guess move into the rest of the session in a ceremonial way. And let me show you what's behind me here briefly. I'm going to move my chair. And then I'm actually going to add in my, oops, let's move this up. In my ministry, we wear white as ministers of walking prayer. And so I'll bring in my white. This is a scarf from my grandma, some rings from my grandma. I thought I would bring in some grandmother energy, some matriarchal energy today as well. So behind me, I've got the representation of the 4 elements. And so now I want to be able to see that. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So there's a feather. There's actually 2 feathers, but there's a beautiful turkey feather here to represent air. And then you can see the candle lit behind me. There's a live plant to represent the earth. And then I've got a beautiful, oops, let me turn this way. You can't see it yet, but some beautiful water here to represent the water. And so we've got the 4 elements represented. And then, sometimes there's live flowers. I also represent divine feminine. You can think of it as, Mary, or just a divinity, Mother Mary, Mother Divine, Mother Earth, Mother Cosmos, but the source, the creator, the womb holder of all that is, really. And then I've also brought in a Buddha just as a sacred way of representing. I think Buddha is really a good way of representing all genders and masculinity, but also femininity and transgender version of life itself. To me, that's one of the ways Buddha's represented. And so we'll start. I invite everyone to stand if you can, and if you would love to. This is invitational. And then if you know the direction in your room or wherever you are watching this that faces east, you may want to start facing the east. So I'm facing east, and awesome, Judy, thank you. And then I'll start with the prayer, and we're going to turn clockwise. So we'll move to the south next, and you just follow me around in those moments. Okay. All right. So let me just move into my ministry mode here. Spirits of the East, we thank you. We honor you. We are so grateful to you today for allowing us to rise up, to have another day, for bringing our sun and our solar system to us in the light, in the beauty, in the beginning of the day, in the beginning. Spirits of East, allow us to serve in your ways. Allow us to serve and walk with purpose today and serve your greatest good. Aho. Spirits of the South, and I invite everyone to turn to the South. I honor you, and I thank you for your sweetness and for your holding us in your comfort and your patience with us. As we're learning new ways, as we're rising in consciousness, as we are learning and growing and sometimes attempting and endeavoring to honor you, to honor nature, to honor all that is, to honor humanity, to honor your creatures, your 4-legged and 2-legged and creepy crawlers and winged and finned ones. We thank you for your patience with us. We thank you for your sweetness and comfort and love. Thank you, spirits of the South. And then if you turn to the North, spirits of the North, I thank you, spirits of the North. I'm sorry, we are in the West. Spirits of the West, I thank you, spirits of the West, for you remind us of our knowings. You remind us of our belonging. You remind us and give us that inner calling and purpose and all knowingness when we are in integrity, when we are a little off or more our way off. Spirits of the West, thank you for being willing to stand in our truth, in our empowerment, in our knowing, and allowing us to follow in your footsteps, and allowing us to bring in, as we close our days, a level of truth and purpose, and knowing that we did well as we could in that day, and that we will have another opportunity. May your spirit so be it in the following day or in another way. Thank you, spirits of the West. Spirits of the North, I thank you. Thank you, waters of the North and in my north in particular, my Great Lake Erie and other lakes of the great, in all of our collective norths, we thank you for bringing us love, bringing us truth, supporting us in loving each other and humanity as a collective in a whole nother level. We thank you for bringing us love so that we can bring that to the planet and to her creatures at this very beautiful, elegant, precious, fragile, and yet knowing that we can create a tipping point time on the planet where we can choose again and again and again. And you've been allowing us to make those choices and supporting us to rise up and bring others into your truth in that way. And we thank you, spirits of the north. And then I'm turning to the east again. You're all welcome to turn to the east if you would so love, or stay where you are. But we're going to pray to Father Sky. Father Sky, thank you. Cosmos, universe, all that is and all that is expanding, all that is everywhere out there and in here, the micro and the macro. I thank you. Thank you for holding our planet, our system, our home in your loving grace, in perfect harmony, in perfection, so that we stay in a revolving beauty. We honor you, Father Sky, for the birds and for the sky and the clouds and the blue and the darkness at night with our moon and our stars and our other planets. And now we know that there is so much more that is beyond our physical eyes, but all in our dreams as well as in the planets and galaxies beyond. Thank you, Father Sky. Thank you for holding us in these precious, precious, precious times, for holding us in your grace, for holding us in your perfection, and for holding us in the perfect place at the perfect time. And Mama Earth, I'm going to get down. You're welcome to if you want. Mama Earth, thank you, Mother Earth. Thank you for being our home, for your resources, for your love, for every aspect that we up until now often have considered our own. Mother Earth, we thank you so much for allowing us to and serving us. And yet we're learning new ways. We're learning ways to be regenerative. Be patient with us, Mama. Be patient with us. We know that there's a point where part of you is saying enough. And we apologize, Mama. Hear our prayers, hear our sorrow, hear our apology for not always treating you in love and respect and care, and your beautiful creatures for not always honoring you up until now. When we know there are new ways, and with each of us, we can take steps that will support a tipping point, another view, another way of holding the planet in your love, in your care, in your grace, of being regenerative, of being growing and planting and renewing instead of being entitled and taking. We are moving into a whole new respect and pattern and love with you. Hold us and support us in these prayers and in these ways, Mama. We would love your support. We ask much of you, and we know we do. And there are those of us that are trying to tread lightly right now and remind others that there's other ways. Help us with this work, for it's not always easy times, but it is our work on the planet at this time. Those of us that bring the light, that bring the consciousness. And so we thank you for being patient with us again, and we apologize again, and we also honor you again, and we respect you, and we bring love. We bring love, we bring our hearts, we bring our service, we bring our sacredness. And we thank you for yours. And we thank you for allowing us to live on your being as your home, our home. Together, we will raise the consciousness of this planet. And so it is. Aho. Amen. And so with that, I thank you for your beautiful prayers. I'm going to invite us to move into just a moment. We'll take a minute. We move into a prayer of holding the planet. You can call it a thought, positive thought, or meditation, but holding the planet in a way you would love to see it for your children, your grandchildren, the next 7 generations. The green, the blue, the animals, the species, the biodiversity, and all the species. How would you love? What would you love? For holding a vision now. And I'm going to time us so we do this for 1 minute. And again, hold what you would love. And I invite you to speak out loud if there's something that's really moving you. What would you love in your home and on your planet today? About 10 more seconds. Holding the planet, the green and the blue, the winged ones, the furry ones, the creepy crawlers and the creepy flyers. Oh, 4-leggeds and 2-leggeds, the mammals, swimming mammals, holding them all, the sky and the ground in love and light. And so it is. Oh. So thank you for taking this precious moment to hold what you held in these ways. Judy, I saw you praying along, and thank you for that. And I know others of you are doing so. And I wanted to share a few things around the idea of ceremony. I study with a number of study with Indigenous elders, and there's a woman, Apella is her name, and she was recently saying that ceremony is a way to reconnect us, reassociate us with the planet, to remind us that we are one, we are nature. It's not us and them, so to speak. And so I wanted to bring that teaching in. And that anytime you want, you can be on a hike or be in your house or be wherever you are and pray to the 4 directions, Father Sky, Mother Earth, and make your offerings as well. Earlier, I made some offerings for us and I had lit some sage. I forgot to mention that earlier, but it's always nice to make an offering to the planet as well. The Indigenous teach that anytime they would pick a plant, pick up a rock, anything they would do, before they would do that, they would ask first and get permission, hear from spirits, this is meant for you. And they would leave an offering. Tobacco, you've maybe heard that people would leave tobacco. If women are on their moon or their menses cycle, then it's cornmeal, not tobacco. But you can pull a strand of your hair and leave that as an offering. To leave an offering, and instead of coming at things and feeling entitled, to actually make an offering, ask for permission, and then know that you're in good relation with the planet, the plant, the rock, the part of nature that you were just with. And so I wanted to bring in a few of those beautiful teachings and this idea of really asking and allowing instead of being entitled and taking. It's a whole different mindset. And I believe that this is where the consciousness of the planet is moving. But I wanted to mention that. And then, Judy, I know we are at a certain time, but I wanted to bring in some action steps. I thought that might help. Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely. I just wanted to appreciate your reminding me, as well as everyone, that about the give and take. But it also reminded me, I'm out of my kayak a lot, and I was out last week in the silence, and floating, and I was seeing, I saw like the fish are spawning right under, and the egrets, and it brought me into that peace. You know, it's that inner peace and forgetting, just washing everything except that moment in time, that being right here, right now, in that moment. And that's what I was feeling with that. And also the 4 directions for me is important. I have a little pond in my backyard with rocks from the 4 directions where I stand in water. Water is one of my grounding forces, that and bless the people and humanity in the 4 directions. So yes, action steps. Katie, I can't tell you.
I know, Judy, I know. Well, thank you for sharing that about your moment of peace on the planet and in nature. And I think many of us, I invite you to bring to mind these moments that you've had in nature and moments of peace. And I remind us, the reason I bring action steps is, as I said earlier, I know many of my friends and family, it's just like there's so much that they feel overwhelmed with, like, what can I do? What's my part going to do? I mean, the development I know where I live, there's a lot of development, and but whatever it is, right? The glyphosates that get in the water, all these different things. So instead of us, it's not that we can't take steps and support different organizations. I highly suggest if you just get on one, you'll get on all of the environmental organizations and donating and participating in the various ways they offer. But one of the things I really emphasize at this point in April, for many of us, it's springtime, not all on the planet, of course, but for many of us, I think some of your watchers, or many of your watchers, Judy, is not to use Roundup or any kind of fertilizer on the grass. There's natural fertilizers. And if you have bugs or something like that, I use vinegar, apple cider or white vinegar, just to put that on. I mean, not that I want to kill bugs, but I mean like fire ants or something that you don't want getting into the house and they're close to the house. But otherwise, to know that we want to live in harmony, and the amount of glyphosates that our farming industry, just at the level of fact that they're using it, this isn't only about saving nature anymore and preserving nature. This is really about ourselves and the amount and levels that have gotten in our water up until now. Again, we like to say that to hold that there's a shift. But really, if we want our children and grandchildren to have safe drinking water, we've got to limit the amount of fertilizers and things that are in our water. And so I live on the end of a cul-de-sac, and it goes down into the woods and a little wooded area and like a river bed, small, I guess I would call it a tributary, but I don't use I only use natural fertilizers on my grass. And then I think we talked about it a year or so ago, Judy, but letting my backyard grass grow bigger so that the birds and of course, the bees right now, it's so important to have pollinators. And so not using Roundup was one that I wanted to bring in. And by the way, you're all welcome if you need ideas, or I think Judy said when we send this out, we'll send the different sites and different things that I can share more with you, or, we'll share some sites and things with you as well. But the other one I wanted to mention is, I just want to emphasize the idea that just because we're recycling boxes or whatever it is, that doesn't actually mean that we're being a good steward of the planet per se. I'm not saying, I'm not bringing judgment in, as much as I'm saying using something and recycling it first at the level of fact that just not everything is getting recycled. That's just not. And things changed, and China was importing a lot of our recycling in 2017, 2018. They stopped taking it. Maybe in some ways that was a good thing, because we found out it was a lot of it landing in the ocean, a lot of it burning up, and without any kind of systems, just kind of naturally burning in poor areas in China, which wasn't actually the best, a lot of where they were importing. But that said, so now I know many towns are, I'm not saying definitely want to recycle if you use something, but my point is, you buying more and more from Amazon thinking, oh, I can recycle the boxes. Use the special days where you can put things together, or do you really need that? Or can you go to the store, or whatever it is, that, because between the boxes, the cans, and then of course, really the probably the worst of them all, if again, when we're talking facts, are the plastics. Plastics are just not biodegradable. They will use them and create, I know some of the groups create plastics that they say are reused plastics, which is great, but they're still then not necessarily getting recycled, and a lot of them getting tossed. A lot of cities have, at my city in particular, but a lot of cities taken out recycling as well. So a lot of people are just, throwing things out versus even going. I go to a little township dumpster area, but so, and my point is, we want to recycle, but by recycling, we don't want to say, oh, I've done my part, because there's more to it than that. And if we can back up a little and see the bigger picture, we can realize maybe I can just consume less, or in less of these types of containers and ways. So that's one idea as well. The other aspect I wanted to bring in is eating less meat. And I know, I know different people have different diets and reasons, and I don't want to get into all of the dietary aspects of it or anything. It's just, we know on our planet at this point, a lot of the fires that are started, and especially in Brazil and areas in the Amazon, they're clear cutting to create grazing fields, and then, for the meat, especially the steaks and the cows. And, just at the level of fact, they don't raise, if we're buying food out at restaurants, unless it's like a fork to table and they say it's all natural, free range, for the most part, these animals are growing up tortured and killed in very torturous ways. I mean, I'm just painting the barn door red here. And also, it's the, again, bigger picture. The other view on that is that we're having to clear cut our Amazon, our lungs on the planet. Literally, these trees, you can plant 3-4 trees. But if you've ever been to the Amazon and seen how big these trees are that they're clear cutting, and they're hundreds and hundreds of years old. And so and the immensity of them. And so when you clear cut that, it's just none of that cycle is just not the best cycle. So as much as you can, if you're willing to reduce your meat intake, they also, I've even heard stories of how like the anger in these poor animals that are treated like just a resource, right? And not even with any level of respect, the ones in animal factories, et cetera, that can get in our system. So we know the hormones and all of that have affected our young women. They're maturing earlier, and probably our young men as well. And so I would just invite all of us to reduce our consumption of meat. I haven't eaten meat. I mean, other than if it's going in the garbage, it's on like Bill's plate, my partner, and going in the garbage, then I figure, it's already there. And because I like meat, but I just try not to add to the supply and demand of that. And then one of the other things I wanted to mention, some good news, actually. There's a new charter. It's called the Ecocide Charter. And it's, I believe there's still a place to sign for it, although I don't know if that stopped, because the good news is the EU has actually signed on to this charter. And so this charter is actually making harm to nature a criminal act. And this just happened at the end of March, toward the end of March, that the EU signed on to this. And I think there's more news to come around this. And I also think, the different countries in the EU, they're all going to have their various activities around this. Mostly, though, I believe it's such good news that there's an awareness around this. Yeah, there's an awareness around this. Another thing that happened at the end of March was that the Pope and in the Catholic Church, they are repudiating, not necessarily apologizing, but there's a doctrine of discoveries, basically making land ownership happen, and they're repudiating that. And that indigenous cultures around the world have been asking for that for decades, if not centuries. That was that we literally, many of our ancestors came in and said, okay, this is our land, or took the land, or in various ways made trades that really weren't, again, painting the barn door red, in harmonious ways, really weren't fair, and in many ways were quite torturous again. So that said, this, again, the church in being willing to repudiate this is something indigenous have been wanting for quite a long time, in being respected and just a way, it's not the only way, by the way. It's not, it's a first step, I would say. It's not the only step, but it is a first step in an understanding that what we did to natives in all, in the Americas, of course, but in many lands, that actually wasn't appropriate. And it wasn't, and then to just say and own land the way we do, it's a paradigm. So Judy, you talk about paradigms and shifts. It's just what most of us grew up with and think of land ownership. I mean, I have a house and a mortgage and all of that, but these are paradigms in this idea. And so this is a great first step as well. So I wanted to share some good news there as well. There's a number of petitions and I can send links for that. I know, Judy, you said we could send out links. Let me take a look at my notes and just make sure I didn't forget any of my major action steps that I did. I wanted to mention this one and we spoke to it earlier, the trees. So getting back to the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you notice, I know with COVID kind of receding now, and I think people are kind of back into their normal groove. That said, they have noticed at the mental health numbers, statistic wise, there, and we've got a war in Ukraine that, by the way, environmentally is not the best situation. So as much as we can promote peace, no matter where it is, that there's ways to negotiate, hold states of peace. And then anyway, my point was that this is bringing some anxiety into a lot of people and especially our youth right now. And so an idea like Judy, you said, sitting in the lake or sitting in and hugging a tree, these trees, as I said earlier, they speak to each other. They know us and want to be our friends and love us. And they're there. The Mother Earth and the trees, the ground, they're there for us. They want to remind us of our connection. They want us to feel that we're one with them and not like taking over them, so to speak, or even, getting rid of them up until now. Yeah. So I invite us to hug trees. And I did want to share, Judy, unless there's anything else, I wanted to share the ending of my story.
Yes, I would. It reminded me, in my meditation group, I was talking to this young man and, what he was saying is his life is so busy and stuff. And he says, I just don't see any creatures at all anymore. And he said, oh, I know what I learned a long time ago is just go out and sit and be quiet and notice what you're noticing and they will come to you.
Absolutely.
And this was such a young man. I'm like, yes, you don't have to wait till you're retired. Take 5-10 minutes in the morning, sit and notice and set an intention. They will come to you and they will speak to you of your need as well as theirs. So it was this global. And yes, so tell us into the story and then go for it.
What a profound young man to realize that. Last summer I started, just a side note, I started this cute, for me, it was just a ritual of giving myself a break in the day. Sometimes, to your point, Judy, 5 minutes, I would go sit on my front porch and I have bushes and the trees, across the cul-de-sac in front of me and listen. And I ended up having a pet frog that for like 2 months, he was there every day. He would show up and sit on my rocking chair with me. So they will come. So the tree story, there's more to the tree story. And I just thought I would bring in a little bit of an ending to that. So I felt fairly heartbroken around those trees. And there are two good things though, that came out of it. One, my neighbors who had this all happen, I connected with them on it. And they were telling me how, the problems they had with the trees and the plumbing. And, I maybe got that for one tree. I didn't know about the other two. But that said, we were able to connect and we actually became friends, talk about good relations. And I was able to share with them a little bit about how I feel about trees and why and the nature they bring. On top of it, months before the trees got cut down, about 2 months before that, my sister had called me and her and her family were in Disney World. And she called and she said, Katie, do you want the castle bracelet or the Aladdin bracelet? They were going to get me a gift. And I said, I don't know, I guess the castle. Now, 2 months later, never got the bracelet. So I forgot all about this. The day after the trees came down, I'm still fairly saddened when I look out, because now I'm used to seeing them. I look outside, they're not there. And literally the day after, I get this bracelet in the mail, or this box in the mail, and I open it up and it's a bracelet. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the bracelet. And then I look at the charm on it, and it's not Aladdin and it's not the castle. It's 3 trees, a young woman, and a big squirrel. I kid you not. And Judy, if I can find that bracelet, I'll send a picture. Maybe we could send a picture out. I kid you not. 3 trees, exactly the number of trees, a squirrel, like the squirrel I had been praying with and praying for, and a young woman. And here she sent me the Pocahontas bracelet from Disney. I just knew, I knew in my heart that God and Mother Earth and nature had heard my prayers. And I want to remind us that we're all connected in that way. And so pray with the animals and remind people when they're going to take a tree out, do you have to take that tree out? You know, it's okay to ask. It's okay to, inquire. It's okay to say, well, this is what I like to do. It's okay to share information. And mostly, I think people really respect and honor. And mostly, I know nature spirit feels our connection and knows that those of us that are walking lightly on the earth and trying to do our best to support the planet and her creatures, that she's working and meeting us there. So that's how I wanted to end with that whole story, Judy.
Oh my gosh. We're sending you so much energy in your work in the world, and your light and your leadership on the environment with everybody that you touch, Katie Augustine, as a leader, and love, sending love and blessings on your work in the world. So here you go. Here you go.
Katie, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for holding this every Tuesday. Paradigm Shifters, supporting the shift and uplift, and bringing all sorts of people in to really support that consciousness that is changing and rising, and this tipping point that we're creating. So I love your sunflowers. I love your yellow.
It's shifted up. And it was, when I first thought about that, I was thinking of words that rhymed in like shift, uplift, and then how about the whole planet? Oh. Why not?
Why not? Why not? I love it.
At first I thought, whoa, that's pretty big. And I'm like, well, let's shoot for it.
Shoot for it.
Thanks so much, Katie. Oh man.
I love you, and I love you, Paradigm Shifters.
Oh, let me. Oh.